At 11:42 p.m., my mother sent me the emergency code we hadn't used since I was 13. 3 words. No explanation. Then a location pin from her kitchen in Raleigh. 10 minutes later, I was standing in the rain behind her house with the spare key digging into my palm so hard it left marks. I remember thinking how strange it was that the porch light was still on. My mother never left lights on late at night. Elaine Mercer believed in turning off lamps sealing leftovers in reused butter tubs and keeping the thermostat low enough to build character. That porch light glowing through the rain felt wrong before I even stepped inside. I stayed still for a second and listened. Thunder somewhere off toward the interstate, water dripping from the gutters, a television playing faintly inside the house. No yelling, no crashing. That scared me more. I unlocked the back door carefully and stepped into the kitchen. The smell hit first, burnt coffee and whiskey. Then I saw the broken mug near the sink. I didn't call out right away. Old habits die hard. 26 years in Army intelligence teaches you to walk into a room quietly and notice details before emotions get involved. One chair pushed back too far from the table. Cabinet door hanging open. My mother's purse on the floor. And a smear of lipstick on a paper towel beside the sink. Not fresh, recently wiped. I heard Dennis before I saw him. "Elaine," he barked from the living room. "Who's in the kitchen?" Still drunk enough to sound mean. I stepped around the corner slowly. Dennis Halbrook was sitting in his recliner with a glass of bourbon balanced on his stomach and a Braves game muted on television. He looked exactly like every aging bully in every North Carolina suburb I'd ever driven through. Gray hair combed too carefully. Expensive watch he couldn't afford anymore. Polo shirt stretched tight over a retirement belly. His eyes narrowed when he saw me. "Well," he said, "look who decided to visit." I ignored him and looked at my mother. Elaine stood near the hallway with one hand clutching her cardigan closed. Even from across the room I could see the split along her lower lip beneath faded pink lipstick. Something inside me went cold. Not hot. Cold. That's the part civilians never understand about people who've spent years in high-pressure work. Real anger doesn't always explode first. Sometimes it freezes solid. "Mom," I said quietly. "You okay?" Dennis answered for her. She dropped a damn mug and cut herself cleaning it up. My mother tried to smile, and that almost hurt worse than the cut. "I'm all right, honey." No, she wasn't. I knew her tells. The tight shoulders. The way she avoided eye contact when she was trying to calm somebody down. I'd seen it when I was a kid after my father died and bill collectors used to call the house. Dennis sat forward in the recliner. "You can't just walk into people's homes in the middle of the night." I looked at him for the first time. My mother sent me an emergency code. His face changed for maybe half a second. Then he laughed. "Jesus Christ, you make everything dramatic." I kept my voice even. "Mom, do you want me here?" Dennis immediately cut in again. "She's tired, you should go home." But my mother nodded. Small movement, barely visible. Still enough. Dennis stood up too fast, bourbon sloshing onto the carpet. "For God's sake, Elaine, tell her to stop acting like she's in one of those damn military movies." There it was. The military comment. Dennis loved those. For 12 years, he'd treated my Army career like a hobby I lucked into. According to him, women in the military either pushed paperwork or posed for recruitment commercials. I never corrected him. Honestly, after a certain age, you stop trying to convince insecure men of anything. Most people back home thought I'd worked some boring federal desk job near Fort Liberty. That was fine with me. Easier than explaining classified assignments to strangers at church potlucks. Dennis took a step closer. "You got your little drama fix now." The whiskey rolling off him made my eyes sting. I glanced at my mother again. Her cardigan sleeve had slipped slightly. Bruising. Not fresh. That told me everything I needed to know. My chest tightened so suddenly I had to unclench my jaw before speaking. "How long?" I asked her softly. Dennis scoffed. "Oh, for Christ's sake." My mother looked down at the carpet. And that silence said more than any confession ever could. Dennis pointed toward the door. "You need to leave." I still remember how calm my voice sounded. "Number." That irritated him more than yelling would've. Men like Dennis feed off emotional reactions. Calmness makes them nervous. He moved toward me fast enough that my body reacted before my brain finished deciding. His hand grabbed my wrist. Wrong decision. I turned, slightly rotated his arm inward and pinned him against the refrigerator in less than 2 seconds. Not hard enough to injure him. Just enough to stop him. The bourbon glass shattered somewhere behind us. Dennis let out a startled grunt. "What the hell?" "Don't touch me again," I said quietly. I released him immediately and stepped back. My mother stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Dennis rubbed his shoulder, stunned less by the pain than the humiliation. "You crazy bitch," he muttered. I ignored him. "Mom," I said, "get your overnight bag." Dennis barked out a laugh. "She's not going anywhere." But this time my mother didn't answer him. She disappeared down the hallway silently. That scared him. You could actually see the moment he realized control was slipping. "Elaine," he snapped. "Don't start this nonsense." I picked up her purse from the floor and set it on the table. Dennis looked at me carefully now. Really looked at me. Probably for the first time in years. "You think you can come in here and scare me?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, Dennis. If I wanted to scare you, you'd already know." The room went quiet except for rain hitting the windows. A few minutes later, my mother came back carrying an old blue overnight bag I recognized from childhood vacations to Myrtle Beach. Dennis looked genuinely confused, like he couldn't believe she was actually leaving. That's the thing about men like him. They mistake endurance for loyalty. My mother stopped beside me near the door, still trembling slightly. I took the bag from her gently. Then Dennis said the sentence that changed everything. "She'll come back tomorrow, she always does." My mother looked at him for a long moment. And for the first time all night she spoke clearly. "No," she said softly, "I don't think I will." We did not drive away that night. That was the first thing people always ask when I tell this story. "Why didn't you just take your mother and leave?" I wanted to. Believe me, I had her overnight bag in my hand. Dennis standing there red-faced and shaking, and every instinct in my body told me to get her into my truck and put 20 miles between us and that house. But my mother stopped in the doorway. Her slippers were soaked from the rain blowing across the back porch. One hand held the frame like she needed it to stay upright. "Rachel," she whispered, "I can't just leave." Dennis heard that and smiled a little. Not much. Just enough. That tiny smile told me he had been counting on shame for a long time. I looked at her and softened my voice. "Mom, you can." She shook her head. "The house, the bills, my medication, the insurance. He'll say I'm confused." Dennis folded his arms. "Because you are confused, Elaine." I turned toward him. "Stop talking." He opened his mouth anyway, then seemed to remember the refrigerator incident and shut it again. My mother looked so small standing there. That was what got me. She had always been 5'6", sturdy, practical, the kind of woman who could carry groceries in one hand and a church casserole in the other. But that night she looked like somebody had folded her inward for years. So I made the decision I hated. "We'll stay tonight," I said, "but I'm staying too." Dennis laughed once. "You're not sleeping in my house." "My mother's name is on the deed," I said, "and I'm not asking." He stared at me for a few seconds, probably weighing whether he could push me again. He chose not to. Smartest thing he did all night. I made Mom sit at the kitchen table while I cleaned the small cut on her lip. She kept apologizing for the mess. That's how I knew it was bad. A woman who has just been hurt should not be worried about broken ceramic. Dennis hovered in the living room, muttering under his breath and pretending to search for the remote. I found the first aid kit under the sink beside dishwasher pods and a bottle of Windex. My mother flinched when I touched the cotton pad to her mouth. "Sorry," I said. "It's all right, honey." It wasn't. I wanted to ask everything at once. How long? How often did he hit you? Did he threaten you? Did anyone else know? But interrogation and care are not the same thing. So I asked only one question. "Do you feel safe sleeping here tonight if I'm in the house?" Her eyes moved toward the living room. Then back to me. "Yes," she said. Dennis shouted, "I can hear you two whispering." I raised my voice just enough. "Good." My mother almost smiled. Almost. I slept in the guest room, though sleep is too generous a word. I sat on top of the quilt with my boots on and the lamp off, listening to the house settle. Every home has a sound at night. That house used to have peaceful sounds. The ice maker clicking. Mom's old wall clock ticking too loud in the hallway. The neighbor's dog barking at nothing. That night I heard Dennis pacing. At 1:18 a.m. he stopped outside the guest room door. I knew because the floorboard creaked. I didn't move. He stood there maybe 10 seconds. Then he walked away. That told me plenty. The next morning he came into the kitchen acting like a wounded king. He had changed into khaki shorts, and a Duke sweatshirt like Sunday morning clothes could erase Saturday night behavior. His hair was wet from a shower. He smelled like mint mouthwash and resentment. "My shoulder hurts," he announced. I was making coffee in my mother's old Mr. Coffee machine. "That's strange," I said. "I thought I was just a government secretary." My mother looked down at her toast to hide a smile. Dennis didn't find it funny. "You assaulted me. You grabbed my wrist." I was trying to get you out of my home. My mother asked me to stay. He leaned over the counter toward her. Elaine, tell her she misunderstood. That was the moment I saw the whole machinery of him. Not just anger, not just drinking, a system. Push, deny, make her doubt herself, make everyone else doubt her too. My mother's hand tightened around her coffee cup. I stepped between them before he got too close. Back up. Dennis's face flushed. You don't give orders here. No, I said, I give warnings. He stared at me, then grabbed his truck keys from the bowl by the door. I'm going to breakfast, he snapped. Maybe when I come back both of you will be done with your little performance. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the window over the sink. For a full minute my mother didn't move. Then she started crying without making a sound. That broke something in me. Not the kind of breaking where you fall apart. The kind where a door inside you closes and locks. I sat beside her. Mom, I said, has this happened before? She wiped her face with a napkin and nodded once. How many times? I don't know anymore. I had to look away for a second. At the refrigerator magnets, at the church calendar, at the photograph of me in uniform that Dennis had moved behind a stack of grocery coupons. When did it start? After he retired, maybe before. I made excuses. What kind? She gave a tired little laugh. The usual kind. Stress, money, bourbon, me being difficult. I hated how practiced those words sounded. Then she told me about the checking account. How Dennis had started helping with bills. How he took her debit card because she was too trusting. How he read her texts. How he told neighbors she was getting forgetful. He says if I leave, he'll prove I can't manage alone, she whispered. There it was. Not one bad night. A cage. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. I need to document this. She stiffened. No police, not yet. I'm not going to force you, but we need proof. Messages, bank records, photos, anything you're willing to save. She stared at the coffee cup like the answer might be in there. I don't want cameras in my bedroom. Never, I said. Only shared spaces and only if you say yes. She looked up at me. You'd do that legally. I'll call an attorney first. That seemed to calm her. A little. By noon, we had changed her phone password, photographed the bruising without making it graphic or humiliating, and written down every incident she could remember. Dates if she knew them. Holidays if she didn't. After Thanksgiving. The week before Easter. The night the water heater broke. Real life does not always come with clean timelines. At 2:07 p.m., Dennis came back with Bojangles biscuits and the attitude of a man expecting the world to reset itself. It did not. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook in front of her. I was beside her. Dennis froze. What's this? My mother's voice shook, but she got the words out. I'm writing things down. Dennis looked at me with pure hatred. And I knew then he would not stop. Not because he loved her. Because control was the only thing he had left. Dennis stopped pretending after that. Not completely. Men like him never do. They save their best performances for church parking lots and backyard cookouts. But inside the house, something changed once he realized my mother had started writing things down. He got quieter. And somehow that was worse. 3 days after I moved into the guest room, I woke up around 5 in the morning to the sound of kitchen drawers opening and closing. Not slamming. Careful. I stayed still for a second and checked my phone. Rain had finally stopped overnight. The digital clock beside the bed glowed 5:11 a.m.